Don't accept less because you think a little is better than nothing. There is a lie many of us tell ourselves when we are afraid. At least it's something. At least they text back. At least I have a job. At least someone chose me. At least it's better than being alone. At least is enough for now. On the surface, those thoughts sound practical, grateful even, but sometimes they are not gratitude at all. Sometimes they are fear wearing gratitude's clothes, fear that nothing better will come, fear that this is as good as life gets. Fear that wanting more is somehow selfish. So we settle, not because we are content, because we are afraid of ending up with nothing. But accepting less simply because you fear having nothing often costs you far more than you realize. Scarcity can distort your decisions. When you believe opportunities are limited, almost anything feels worth holding on to. A relationship that leaves you feeling unseen, a job that slowly drains your spirit, a friendship built on convenience instead of mutual respect. A dream you shrink because it feels safer than pursuing the one you truly want. Scarcity whispers that you should be grateful for whatever you can get. Abundance reminds you that your life is not built on fear. It is built on choice. There is a difference between gratitude and settling. Gratitude is appreciating what you have. Settling is convincing yourself that what you have is all you deserve. Those are not the same thing. You can be grateful for where you are while still believing you are capable of something greater. You can appreciate today's opportunities without abandoning tomorrow's possibilities. Growth begins the moment you stop confusing acceptance with surrender. The fear of nothing keeps people stuck. Many people stay because they fear the empty space that comes after letting go. The empty apartment, the empty calendar, the empty inbox, the empty seat across the table, the empty future they cannot yet imagine. But empty space is not failure. It is possibility. You cannot make room for what belongs in your life if your hands are already full of what does not. Less is not always better than nothing. We are often taught that something is always better than nothing. Sometimes that is true. Sometimes it is not. A relationship without respect is not better than solitude. A job that destroys your well-being is not always better than searching for a healthier one. Friendships built on obligation are not better than peace. Sometimes something quietly steals your time, confidence, and joy while convincing you that you should be thankful it exists. Not everything that fills a space adds value to your life. You teach people how to treat you. Every time you accept less than what aligns with your values, you send a message, not only to other people, to yourself. You teach yourself what you believe you deserve. If you repeatedly accept dishonesty, disrespect, inconsistency, or indifference, those experiences slowly become familiar. And what becomes familiar often begins to feel normal. That is why standards matter, not because they make life harder, because they protect what matters most. Your life should not be built on fear. Fear is a poor architect. It builds lives designed for safety instead of fulfillment. It tells you to stay where you have outgrown, to settle for what feels available instead of what feels aligned, to cling to certainty instead of embracing possibility. The problem is that fear rarely asks what you truly want. It only asks what you are afraid to lose. Those are very different questions. Trust that there is more. One of the greatest acts of courage is believing that walking away from what is not right creates space for what is. That does not mean the next opportunity appears immediately. Sometimes there is waiting. Sometimes there is uncertainty. Sometimes there is silence, but silence is not the same as absence. Often it is preparation. Life has a remarkable way of filling the space we create with intention. Self-worth changes what you accept. The higher your self-worth becomes, the less willing you are to negotiate your values. Not because you become demanding, because you become discerning. You stop asking, will they choose me? You start asking, is this aligned with the life I want to build? That shift changes everything because your decisions stop being driven by fear of loss. They become guided by self-respect. Stop bargaining with your future. Every compromise has a cost. Some are worth making. Some are not. The danger comes when you repeatedly trade your future for temporary comfort, a little attention, a little happiness, a little respect, a little hope. Eventually, those small compromises become a life that feels much smaller than the one you are capable of creating. Do not bargain away your future because you are afraid of the unknown. You were never meant to settle. If something in your life feels incomplete, ask yourself an honest question. Are you choosing it because it aligns with your values, or because you are afraid there is nothing better? There is wisdom in gratitude. There is wisdom in patience. But there is no wisdom in convincing yourself that less is all you deserve. Do not accept less simply because you think a little is better than nothing. Trust yourself enough to wait for what reflects your worth. Trust yourself enough to walk away from what diminishes your spirit. Trust yourself enough to believe that an empty season is often making room for a fuller life, because the life you truly want will never be built by settling for less than you know you deserve. Slay reflection. S. See the pattern. Where in your life have you accepted less because you feared ending up with nothing? L. Look at the cost. How has settling affected your confidence, peace, or happiness? A. Acknowledge your worth. What standard or boundary do you need to honor more consistently? Why? Your next step. What is one decision you can make this week that reflects abundance instead of fear? Call to action. Join the conversation. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever walked away from good enough only to discover something far better was waiting? Share your story in the comments. Let's cheer each other on. And if you know someone who might need this reminder, send this to them. Sometimes all we need is a nudge. I'm Carrie Genzel, reading a blog from stateofslay.com. Slay on.